welcome to all of our attendees. Let's get straight into our toolbox talk for this morning. PPE and plumbers, how do we look after our PPE? Well, first of all, PPE or personal protective equipment has been around since very early in man's history. So, from very early, man realized that we needed to protect ourselves from the direct sources of danger. And this is where we come up with head protection to protect our brains, face protection to protect our ears, eyes, nose, and mouth, body protection to obviously protect our skin or other organs, and then from our extremities, our hands and our feet, in order to protect these, because these are really the tools that we are constantly using. And as we see there, today is no different. We are always using PPE, and employees, especially, are the ones using it because you are the ones performing the tasks. But with the advances in technology and with materials becoming a lot cheaper, PPE just seems to become more expensive. And with the advantage of having PPE readily available to ourselves, we might ask ourselves the question, why are there so many incidents and accidents that are occurring on a daily basis that could be prevented by using the correct type of PPE? Or simply put, our attitude to something determines our actions toward it. So, for many who felt that COVID was just a hoax, they didn't need to wear a mask, well, found very soon when they started getting sick that COVID was very real. And so, simply putting on a mask or that type of PPE was a very big savior for many who took it seriously. For those companies who refuse to invest in certain PPE for their companies, even now during COVID, realized very quickly how their companies had to be closed down because of positive COVID cases, losing business for 21 days. And so we can really see that something as simple as PPE can prevent us very big headaches in the future. In fact, it can also prevent certain, not all, certain incidents and accidents. These are generally minor incidents and accidents that start becoming major ones in the future. But let's take a look at some of the PPE that we might be using. Now, in the plumbing industry, yes, you don't always wear a hard hat, but when you are on a construction site, you see the hard hat's not protecting you from certain plumbing risks, but it is protecting you from the environmental or site specific risks that you are working on. Now, as we mentioned in plumbing specifically, there are many different areas where you are going to be performing the task of installation, uh, whether it is groundwork or above the roof work, or even on the side of buildings where you are doing the plumbing work. When you are working at heights, generally on a construction site, you have to wear a hard hat. In fact, walking into a construction site, automatically we need to wear a hard hat. Well, is that because you are creating the hazard that could cause the risk of exposure? And that's why you need the hard hat? Well, not necessarily. A lot of the times, you are not even the person responsible for that type of danger. But it is a mandatory requirement for that site because people are working above your head. And so things could fall, and you need to be protected from anything that could affect you. And so, generally, in fact, all construction sites will require you to wear a hard hat. If you're working at heights on a scaffold or on a roof, the requirement for a hard hat to have a chin strap is always a recommendation. In fact, many sites now are making it mandatory to use this because if you do fall from a height, your hard hat generally falls off and your head is exposed to a potential danger, especially if you're going to swing or if you're going to collide with something, especially being attached to a harness. Your head then is not going to be protected if your hard hat falls off. So please ensure that your hard hat is kept clean as well as free of dirt or any unauthorized stickers. Yes, certain stickers are being used on sites, but these are authorized stickers and it does not um, damage the hard hat at all. But we do not want to put our own stickers on there. Remember, we can have ones that can identify ourselves as safety reps, as firefighters, as fire marshals. In fact, many even have their logos or their company name on them. But these have been authorized and you are allowed to use it. But what we want to prevent is anything that could create damage or accumulate dirt on our hard hat. Now, we might think to ourselves, well, I've seen hard hats that are many years old and the shell of that hard hat is super strong. How is it going to get damaged? Well, the hard hat itself is designed to be very, very strong. But the inside of the hard hat, the sponge, if we can put it that way, inside the hard hat, what fits over our head and gives that gap between the hard hat and our skull is really the part of the hard hat that breaks down pretty quickly, depending on the material that it's made from. And you see, this is the part of the hard hat that is actually protecting us. Because if we had to take a hard hat without the inside and put it directly on our head and something had to fall on it, well, the hard hat wouldn't really protect us as much. You see, yes, it would still protect us from the impact of perhaps a hammer that was falling, but the amount of force that that hammer is putting on the hard hat will still expose our skull or our brain to that amount of force. So, yes, it might stop the direct impact, but it is not going to stop the force of that impact. And so that is why the inside of the hard hat is so important. But why are we talking about hard hats and ensuring that PPE in general is always kept safe? Well, because when we get to sites, we are seeing hard hats laying around all the time. Fair enough, when we get to site, our hard hats are packed away neatly, or when we leave the site, it's packed away neatly. But during the day, when we take a break, tea time, lunchtime, generally what we find is the hard hat laying around a lot of the times in dirty areas. And this is really the attitude that we have toward safety. And remember, our attitude towards something will dictate what our implementation or how we're going to actually do something toward it. So if we feel that it's not very important because we don't need to use it or we are not creating the risk, well, then our hard hats are going to cause us severe damage in the future. On some sites, we might need to adhere to specific color coding for hard hats. For instance, red ones will be only allowed to be used for firefighters. Sometimes blue hard hats are reserved for safety. White hard hats are reserved for management or supervisors. Yellow hard hats are reserved for bricklaying or groundworks. It all depends on the site that you're working on. But if you don't know, just ask. Speak to the safety officer, speak to the client on site, and ask them before you go and outlay the money for purchasing hard hats. Rather, just find out what you need and what color coding you might need for that site. Then please don't share your hard hats. Remember, PPE means personal protective equipment. In other words, it is personal to you and it is there for you. Why? Because you need to inspect it every day before use and ensure it is safe for you to use. And so this personal protective equipment means it becomes yours, that now belongs to you and you need to look after it. Well, now many employers might be saying, well, Chris, I paid for it. Uh, how can I just give it to my employees and then all of a sudden it belongs to them? Well, yes, you did purchase it. It does belong to the company. And so if the person leaves the company, you are allowed to request that that PPE remains behind. But when you issue PPE, please remember that becomes personal protective equipment. And that employee is responsible for the care of that equipment. So remember, although you are not charged for the equipment, you might find yourself in a disciplinary hearing if you are not looking after that PPE that has been purchased for you on behalf of the company. So, yes, both parties have a responsibility toward providing PPE and looking after the PPE. And remember, at the end of the day, it protects you, the one wearing it. And so you want to ensure that not only is it safe to use, but it is safe to protect you from anything on site. Body protection, such as overalls, again, These are not full suits of armor, so it's not going to prevent you from getting serious injuries from impacts. But what it is going to protect you from is minor incidents and accidents that happen on site from a day to day basis. So always ensure that your protective clothing is worn. You'll notice in this instance, this type of protective clothing has reflective tape around it. Well, one of the benefits of reflective tape is that you can be seen often from over a distance away. So if you are working and you cannot be seen, well, then around you, the other risks and hazards that you could face on a site may expose you to danger if you cannot be seen by the person creating that danger. As an example, many construction vehicles driving in and around a construction site cannot see you if you are not visible. And so, wearing this type of PPE helps you to avoid others' hazards that they are creating, not necessarily the hazard you create for yourself. Some overalls are fire retardant, and so if you're working with hot works such as welding or grinding, then this will prevent your body from taking the impact of those sparks or the welding sparks that you might be utilizing. So again, what type of overall do you need? All of this goes down to your resources that you need to purchase for a specific task that you're performing. But again, who is it protecting? It's protecting you, the one wearing that PPE. So please ensure your overalls are clean. Ensure that you are washing them regularly to prevent body odors and also your normal body hygiene, because this goes a long way in not just safety, but also health. Remember, what we want to do is ensure that our PPE not only protects us from a safety perspective, but also from a health perspective. And this would be like our safety boots as well, ensuring that they are aired out and cleaned so that it doesn't start affecting our feet or our toes. This will be the same as our overalls. Just chat to the manufacturer or wherever you purchased this type of garment. Normally on the tag, it will also tell you what type of chemicals you can use in order to clean these things. So please adhere to those because you do not want to damage it with certain types of bleaches or disinfectants that cannot be used with that type of material. And then always ensure that you're purchasing your PPE from a reputable PPE company. Obviously, it must comply to your SAN standard. Again, inspect it every day before you use it. Why? Well, it is there to protect your body. And so you do not want to have any tears or anything like that that could affect or expose your body to certain dangers. For many of you working at heights, body support is vital, either when working on certain types of ladders, certain scaffolding, and especially when we are working on roofs, we might need to wear a harness with a lanyard. Now, a harness and a lanyard specifically is designed not to stop us from falling, but to arrest us in a fall. And so we do need to understand that there is still a danger when wearing a harness. You see, maybe you feel when you put the harness on that you cannot fall. Well, that's not possible. You see, a harness is designed to stop you when you have fallen. And so this is the least or the most um, ineffective fall protection. See, the best type of fall protection is when you've got barricading around you, where it's not possible for you to reach an edge where you can fall. And so, using the hierarchy of controls, we've designed certain support structures or certain fall protection in order to ensure that if you do fall, you are at least protected from hitting the ground. But it also comes with its dangers. And much like a safety belt or an airbag in a vehicle, you want to ensure that it is in tip top condition. There are no cuts or abrasions. It hasn't been left in the dirt. It doesn't have oil stains on it. It's not being damaged when we grind or when we weld. You see, many of us smoke when you are on a roof, and there is a very big possibility of burning the lanyard because it is made out of material. And so these types of things can basically damage or start wearing and tearing the actual harness and lanyard. And when we need it the most, well, that's when it's going to fail. You see, when we wear a hard hat, when we wear protective clothing, and when we wear body support, ear protection, eye protection, safety boots, it's not necessarily protecting us every single day from something specific. You see, you're not having an impact all the time. You're not falling every day from working at heights. So it's there almost as an insurance. It's there to protect you in the event of an incident, an accident happening. Now, we don't want incidents and accidents to happen to you, but if they do, because it is very possible for this to happen on site, well, then we want the PPE that you are wearing to protect you. And so always ensure that your harness and your lanyard are in good working condition. Again, inspect it every day before you use it. Now, we just want to reiterate this specifically with fall protection equipment. When we say before use, it means if you take it off during lunchtime and you are no longer wearing it or using it, and you leave for an hour or half an hour and come back to your harness and lanyard and then uh, put it on again, remember you need to do a visual inspection again. Why do we say this? Well, just take a look at where many harnesses or lanyards are lying around when we are taking our break. Is it in a protective case, kept out of the sun, nice and neat? Or do we take it off, drop it where we've been working, and then put it on when we get back? Well, what has happened when it was out of sight? Who drove over it? Who moved it? What happened to that type of PPE when you were not looking? Well, because you don't know, you need to inspect it again in case something went wrong. And so, if you do not want to do this, ensure that it's always clean, always neat, always protected. Pack it away if you're not using it, and then take it out again if you need to put it on again. But refrain from just dropping it in the dirt or on the ground or throwing it into a corner so that you can use it later on. You see, if we look after our PPE, it will look after us. Now, when it comes to ear protection, many of us using grinders, high pressure machines, or perhaps even working in noisy areas, we might require different types of ear protection. And so, again, we want to look after it because it does prevent us from getting noise induced hearing loss. This happens over time. Many of us are exposed to a certain amount of decibels that we can take at a certain point. You see, when working with a grinder or when working with a high pressure machine, right in the beginning, you can't really hear much about what's happening around you, but you feel okay. You might have done this for a few months, for even a few years, and you feel like you haven't been affected. Well, noise induced hearing loss happens over a period of time. And this is why it's also important that medicals happen every year, where they check your eyes and your ears, as well as checking your breathing to see if what you are doing, your task that you're performing, is not harming you over time. Now, many back in the day, while mining, didn't think asbestos was very dangerous. Now, or many have died because of cancer. Many are suffering severely because of cancer due to the asbestos that they inhaled. None of us want to live our life giving all that we can as an employee to our company, and then later on, when we retire, have no body, have no ears, have no eyes to enjoy our retirement. In fact, many of us might never retire because we have to work constantly, but none of us want to lose our body, lose our hearing, or lose our eyesight just because we refuse to wear some sort of earplug or some sort of earmuff. And so, if you are an employer, please ensure you are using the right type of hearing protection. Dependent on the decibel reading of the task that you're performing, you may need to use a specific type of ear protection. Again, employees, these things are expensive. They do not come for free. And so please look after them. Do not throw them on the floor. Make sure they are always kept protected. And remember, if you are using them and you damage them, please report this as soon as possible so that you can get a new set or perhaps a better set for yourself to use. And then with your risk assessment, make sure your risk assessment adequately defines what type of PPE is necessary for the task you're performing. And this goes along with eye protection as well. As plumbers, you are always using grinders, either to chase walls, to cut pipes, or perhaps you're even using high pressure spray machines to do certain cleaning or grease trap cleaning. Perhaps you have moved into a different area of plumbing where you are now doing maintenance as well as renovations to buildings. And so eye protection becomes extremely important to protect your eyes from dust, particles, and then from potentially when a grinding disc breaks and you have the potential of it slicing through your eyes. Now, many people have lost their eyesight. Many people have lost their lives because they didn't protect their eyes or forehead. And so we want to ensure that whether we wear a face shield, safety glasses, or whatever type of eye protection is necessary, we want to keep it not only in good condition, but at the same time inspected every single day. And employees, again, these types of PPE are expensive. So please look after them. They are certainly very small. And if we put them on the ground or perhaps on a seat and you sit on them or stand on them, they are safety glasses, but they can break. Just because they are safety glasses does not necessarily mean that if you stand on them, they are not going to break. Those types of safety glasses are super expensive and they don't come from South African manufacturers. Now, you'll also notice in this picture, there are sunglasses. Well, for many working at heights, you might not need specific safety glasses, but you might need sunglasses. And this is to protect your eyes from UV light. Again, dependent on the task, you might have to go and resource and find specific PPE that is required for your task. But always, as a recommendation, employees, please ensure you are protected by not only wearing the right PPE, but by looking after your PPE. When it comes to safety boots, again, keep them clean. Ensure you have a pair of safety boots even when you are only visiting a site. Now, all of us should be wearing safety boots at any time when performing any plumbing works. Now, this is a steel tip safety boot. Yes, you get fairly cheap ones on the market. They don't last as long, but they are pretty good. They should last you at least a year. But ask yourself, are you wearing the same safety boot every single day? Well, if you are, there is the danger of swelling feet. There's the danger of backache. There's the danger of neck ache. There's the danger of musculoskeletal damage that you are doing if you're wearing the same safety boot every single day. Why is that? Well, you are not allowing that safety boot to rest. See, it's not just the 8, 9, or 10 hours that you're working in them, it's the 2 or 3 hours before that you had to put them on. And it's the hour or two that takes you to get home that you are still wearing them. Your entire body weight resting on these shoes. And so you don't allow them to breathe, you don't allow the memory foam to come back. All of these circumstances affect the safety boots. And the safety boot does not just protect you from something falling on it, it protects you from water that will make your feet wet and then cause other health hazards to your feet. You see, safety boots are extremely important almost for your entire body. So, again, ensure that safety boots are not just safe, kept clean, but also looked after because they do look after your body. Again, inspect it every day before you use it. So, what type of PPE are you using? Now, even though PPE seems to be the least important than all other safety measures, you see, on the hierarchy of control, it's the last point of call. It's the last thing that we put in place in our risk assessment. But it is still mandatory. It is still vital. In fact, it is the last defense against any risks or hazards slipping through our hands. It can protect us from some very common injuries that happen every single day. But we do need to know how to use it, how to maintain it, and how to ensure that it is protecting us. So ask yourself 2 questions. And specifically, I'm speaking to you as employees. Do you care for the items that have been given to you in the interest of health and safety? And do you maintain your PPE? Look after them, clean them, and ensure that they are safe, because they are the best protection to you when they are working correctly. And so, again, you might ask yourself those questions and find out, are you really looking after the tools and equipment that you have been given? So, just to recap, the question is, are you protected by the PPE that you are using? Please ensure that according to the law, you are taking reasonable care of your own health and safety. This is by what you do as well as by what you do not do. So make use of, but do not abuse your PPE. This is for your protection. So ensure that you're adhering to your site policy, your company policy, on ensuring that the PPE that you use is safe to be used. Keep it clean, keep it in good working condition. If there are any defects, or perhaps you see a different danger on site that additional PPE might be needed, report this as soon as possible. Make sure that the PPE in your position is kept in a safe, locked up area to protect the PPE. Remember, the PPE can only protect you if it is in good working condition, and never interfere with or misuse your PPE. So, when you're using a full body harness, your scaffolding hooks are not a hammer. So, we might think to ourselves, it's made of steel, it's super strong, it can take 2 tons, but it is not designed for that purpose. So remember, the right tool for the right job. We do not want to give our own tools, such as our eyes, our ears, away to the incidents and accidents that are occurring every single day.